It is 10:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans were implicated in the Brian Flores lawsuit against the NFL on Thursday as former Titans defensive coordinator Ray Horton joined the lawsuit and alleged the franchise conducted a sham interview with him in 2016 to comply with the Rooney Rule after deciding that they would hire Mike Mularkey. The Titans did ultimately elevate Mularkey from his interim role to head coach in that 2016 cycle. The team released a statement on Thursday saying, quote, "We conducted detailed in-person interviews with 4 talented individuals, 2 of whom were diverse candidates. No decision was made and no decision was communicated prior to the completion of all interviews." The Nashville Predators scored 2 in the third, including a game winner from Ryan Johansson to grab a 3-2 win over the Ottawa Senators on the road Thursday. Matt Duchene, Tanner Jeannot, the other goal scorers, and Roman Josi with 3 assists, breaking the franchise record for points in a season with 68. The Preds still in the first wildcard spot in the Western Conference, 2 points ahead of Dallas and back in Bridgestone Arena tomorrow at 5 p.m. hosting the Florida Panthers. The Memphis Grizzlies dropped a second straight loss Thursday to the Denver Nuggets, 122-109. 2 more regular season games for the Grizz, who have locked up the 2 seed in the NBA. They host the Pelicans tomorrow night. The Atlanta Braves celebrated their 2021 World Series title on opening day Thursday before falling 6-3 to the Reds at SunTrust Park. Game 2 tonight at 6:20. And a Seymour Putters Masters update. Tiger Woods finished the first round at 1 under on Thursday. He tees off today at 12:41. Sung Jae Im currently in the lead at 5 under through 4 holes on day 2. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Welcome in on this Friday. Hope everybody is ready to get a little closer to the weekend. We hope to accomplish that goal with you over the next 3 hours or so. 615-737-1045. You can jump in on the conversation this morning if you like. Got a lot of different directions to go. Going to have some fun guests in the studio today. Brett Kern, Titans punter, is going to be our Masters tournament analyst. I know he's excited. And we should all be excited because Tiger Woods very much in play as the second round is underway at Augusta National. Lucas back there making it happen. Looking forward to getting into this Tiger stuff today because I don't know how everybody else consumed this stuff yesterday. I don't know how much or how little attention you paid to the Masters outside of just the Tiger Woods storyline. I don't know. Because it feels, and at least, the energy that is coming through the television sets, or, I know some people lucky enough to go down there. It seems like an absolutely electric atmosphere. Weather's going to be wretched today. And there is still people in the gallery, jam-packed full. It's going to be a lot of, it's going to be curious to see what happens with Tiger. More than anything, just to see how people stay engaged with the Masters. If people do stay engaged with the Masters through this, or if there's just a percentage of the audience that's there to see if the 46-year-old, most dominant athlete in that sport that we've ever seen, one of the most dominant athletes that we've ever seen across any sport, whether there's just a percentage of the population that's consuming this stuff that's just there to see the show. I've seen him do a couple of interviews at this point, and he was talking about how he felt after the first round yesterday because we all saw, the pain, the obvious pain that he's going through, whether he's wincing a little bit. You start to see a limp as he walks the course. The weather, the rain there, making it more difficult to walk that course. And by the way, he's a 46-year-old who has said publicly that one leg doesn't look like the other anymore after this car wreck. So this was Tiger Woods being asked how he felt, how his body felt after the first round yesterday.
3 birdies and 2 bogeys for the 5-time champion. I want to ask about your round in a moment, but considering everything that's transpired over the last 14 months, how would you describe your emotions leading to that first shot on the first tee this morning?
Well, I did not have a very good warm-up at all. I hit it awful. And as my dad said, did you accomplish your task? Did you warm up? I said, yes. Now go play. And that's exactly what I did. I blocked it out, and I felt like, hey, I'm warm. Go play. Let's just go get it done. You know where to put it. Execute each shot. And, as the round built, I was able to get into the red. I got out of there and got to even par. But made 2 stupid mistakes at 8 back to back. Loss of concentration a little bit there, but I fought back and for the day to end up in the red, I'm right where I need to be.
With that said, what was this opening round able to tell you about your game and your body that the practice rounds couldn't?
Well, I've been saving it. That's the thing. I came up here as a test run to see if I could, and I was able to play, as I said in a press conference, 27 holes because we went and played the par 3 course, and I felt good, and the whole idea was to keep pushing but keep recovering, and that's the hard part is each and every night to recover, and I've been doing that. My team's been incredible, getting me ready, and I figured once the adrenaline kicks in and we get fired up and I get into my little world, I should be able to handle business.
So you got an afternoon tee time tomorrow. What will the next 16, 18 hours look like for you?
Lots of ice.
Tiger, we appreciate the time.
That's Tiger Woods with Michael Eaves of ESPN, who, by the way, does a fantastic job. So, Tiger's back? Just like that?
Back with a bunch of metal in one leg.
All of a sudden? Just like that? How the hell? I know we did. I don't want to get into reruns because it is just so spectacular to see him because of the circumstances that he has had to go through to get back out there again. We never get to see the mortality of guys at this level, at that kind of level, right? You don't see, LeBron James, and I know that people have polarizing opinions about LeBron, but outside of the China stuff, LeBron has had precious few truly bad public moments, right? For as long as he's had microphones in front of his face since high school and all the scrutiny that guy is under, you haven't seen him have a ton of missteps like that. We basically lived through Tiger's greatest moments of shame with him, as an event, basically, in the way that it was being covered. And so we've seen a different side of Tiger Woods than we have seen of Tom Brady and LeBron. Those guys are willing to show you to a certain extent, like Brady's doing the man in the arena stuff, but it's told from the perspective of Tom Brady. Tiger Woods, I'm sure if he had his choice, he would prefer to go the route of those guys where he has control of the narrative, but in a way that I think makes him so relatable despite being the most dominant athlete you've ever seen in a sport and one of them across a generation. Tiger Woods is a fantastic story. And by the way, at this point, as you heard Michael Eaves mention, 3 birdies, 2 bogeys, 13 pars. He hit 9 of 18 greens in regulation, hit 8 of 14 fairways. Exceeded expectation by a mile. Now, the leaderboard, second round underway at this point. He was 1 under to start the day, which put him in striking distance. Now, obviously, as the rounds have gone on since this morning, there's a contingent that has got back into the mix, a little bit of a bottleneck there at 2 under, basically, at this point. That's put him outside of the top 10. But still, this is, he's in it. He's in it. He expects to win this thing.
When you look at how well he played yesterday, at what point do we consider the adjustments made to his leg in the recovery after the car wreck an advantage? He's basically a cyborg at this point. We don't know what technology was installed into that leg, a protractor, an infrared laser to know where to put the ball. We can't rule these things out.
Are you alleging that Tiger Woods is a cheater? That he's literally performance enhanced?
I'm not saying he's a cheater. I'm saying he might be a cyborg.
I thought he was a cyborg before. In fact, I think he's more human with all the metal in his leg than he was before all of this stuff, right? That's the thing.
We can't rule it out. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for your great journalism on this. I expect a full report by the end of the show about whether or not Tiger Woods, who was limping across the golf course yesterday, has a competitive advantage because he has a bunch of metal in his leg because he got in a car wreck, Lucas. Back to the shadows. We're going to have a lot of fun throughout the course of this today. And I want to hear from you, 615-737-1045. Do you think Tiger Woods has a legitimate chance to win this thing today? And if, for whatever reason, at 46 years old and coming off a car wreck, if he somehow falters today when the conditions are expected to get rough later this afternoon, we're talking significant wind, which is going to make their lives a living hell out there trying to play golf. If he misses the cut, will you stay as invested in the Masters? 615-737-1045. We'll talk about that coming up next. We got Brett Kern later on in the show as our Masters analyst. Going to be a fun one on this Friday. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Good morning. Happy Friday to all those who celebrate. We need a weekend. We need a Masters weekend. I'm excited. Are you doing anything like with friends? Do you guys do anything for the Masters?
Nope. It's going to sit on my couch, watch it, probably take a nap.
I mean, this is perfect golf on the TV and napping weather. But down at Augusta National, it's going to get a little hairy this afternoon. Now, Tiger's not scheduled to tee off in round 2 until, 12:40 Central Time. So that's going to be running up right through Blaine and Mickey and then into 3HL. So you'll be able to follow Tiger live as we did yesterday going through Augusta National. So I guess for the audience, 615-737-1045, what did Tiger Woods prove to you yesterday? That's the biggest question in all of this because, as I made mention of earlier, I mean, there's no one who could look at what he did yesterday, who could look at the way that he finished under par, and who could look at the way that he finished in the top 10. And despite, some moments where, okay, he doesn't look right, he's clearly struggling, he's going to feel like hell tomorrow, meaning today, there are legitimate concerns. He was a 40-1 favorite to win it. Those are pretty damn good odds for a dude who has no business even probably playing golf right now. But at this point, what has he proved to you? 615-737-1045 is the number. I think he can make the cut. I think he can work his way into contention as the tournament progresses. And, I mean, if he was going to do it anywhere, right, this is the kind of analysis that you've heard a lot of people give so far, but there's nowhere where he's more intimately familiar with other than, the course that he plays at home in Tampa or wherever Tiger's living right now in South Florida. He's not going to know any course on tour and feel better about any course on tour than Augusta National, which, in and of itself tells you just what kind of golfer, what kind of athlete this dude is. So he's clawing his way back. I mean, he's literally clawed his way back from a hospital bed now into contention heading into the second round. And the biggest question, of course, is, all right, how is he going to recover ahead of this basically 1 o'clock tee time today? I thought he looked pretty tired at the end. I thought, and you could hear it. He sounded pretty pleased with himself, understanding that this is somebody who's operated at the height of competitiveness and is probably not going to be satisfied with a top 10 finish after the first round. But I think even he, through all the different things, I think Tiger Woods has now gotten some kind of perspective in his life about, hey, this is still an accomplishment. The fact that I could go out here, have a couple practice rounds, feel like not only am I not going to embarrass myself to go out the way that a lot of your favorite athletes as they age and get towards the very end of their careers, the way that you see Peyton Manning not look like Peyton Manning, but he wins a Super Bowl because he's got Von Miller chewing on Cam Newton's spine for 4 quarters, right? This is just Tiger. This is one man alone. Tom Brady plays a different sport than Tiger Woods. Tom Brady is still greatest champion, greatest winner in all of the NFL. He's doing it with teammates. He's building teams around him now in Tampa in a way that he wasn't able to do in New England. This is just Tiger. That's, I think, what makes that and the storyline elevates him above. I mean, is he in the same class of athlete of like transcendent superstar as Michael Jordan? Do we think of Tiger and Michael in those same kind of prisms?
Yeah.
Like not one greater than the other, just peers, equals, you would say.
Yes.
6 championships. How many majors does Tiger have? I should know this off the top of my
majors,
head.
I know he's won the Masters 5 times.
Okay. Well, that's,
He's also never missed the cut at the Masters, which is unbelievable.
And if he does it again, if he makes the cut again, it will be his greatest. 2019 when he won this thing was his greatest accomplishment to date, right? Because that felt like the peak. I didn't think that it was going to ever get better than that. I don't even think he thought it was going to get better than that, right? You've got the embrace with his son and his daughter at the end. You've got him on Sunday when he's clearly got it in hand. He's fist pumping. The crowds are going crazy. Tiger Woods has won the Master. I remember I had gotten up to run errands or something like that in the middle of Sunday's round. And then as he slowly started to pull away a little more, I had to like pull over, go into a Starbucks, pull it up on my phone and just sit there and watch him win it. Just sit there and watch. Name another moment in modern day anything that makes you have to stop what it is you're doing, get to the closest phone, iPad, TV, whatever the hell, and watch, just so you can experience one of the most singular moments in athletic history.
15 majors in Tiger's career. That 2019 Masters win was his first since 2008.
And he wants to break the record. He wants to break Jack Nicklaus's record. And if I recall now, obviously this predates Lucas and I, but Jack Nicklaus won his final Masters at 46 also, if memory serves. Lucas, you might fact check me on that as well. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But for all of this stuff today, that's correct, 46 years old?
Yep, born in 40, 86 was his last Masters win.
Okay.
So that math checks out.
the one math equation we got right on there.
Carry the two.
And we still had to use the internet. I love that we're all getting to experience this together. And I don't know how much this energy carries over. Like, say it falls apart today. I'm gonna, there will be a degree of disappointment. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to see him continue to advance, continue to stay competitive. But, if things happen and his body gives out, so be it. Like, you get it. And watching the way, because golf, it felt like golf is in a pretty good spot post. I don't know that we're clearly still not post-Tiger. 25 years of this. And going back even further when he was 4 years old, making the rounds on the late night talk shows, right? Saying he wanted to win the most golf majors of all time, performing trick shots and things of that nature, like in the 80s, right? Tiger Woods has been a part of the culture, of the fabric of American culture, sports or otherwise, for his entire lifetime, basically. But it felt like golf was getting a little bit away from it. You had Dustin Johnson, you had Bryson DeChambeau. Both of those guys have kind of petered out. You felt like you had a little bit of a dominant force that was starting to reemerge. Nobody's ever going to be this. Golf is just golf until Tiger plays it in any other way. But it felt like you had enough, I don't want to say like young and upcoming superstars, because these guys have been around for a minute. They've just always been under the shadow or in the shadow of this otherworldly thing. And then all of a sudden, just when you're starting to be like, okay, I can move on, right? This is like after you get out of a relationship that has lasted 25 years plus just in the world of major tour golf. And then beyond that, if you've been paying attention to Tiger's entire career, across, what Earl Woods and his father and how much that was documented. And this, we're going to train this child into a machine, an absolute dominating machine at what it is that we want him to do. Cold, emotionless, there to cut you if you get in his way. 615-737-1045. Does Tiger have anything to prove to you at this point? Because certainly he proved to me yesterday that he can be competitive in this thing. Chuck is in Clarksville up next. What's up, Chuck?
Hey, Buck. Another interesting fact, I don't think he's going to catch Nicklaus. I think he might get his 15th major, but I don't think he's going to get to 18. But another thing that Nicklaus did also, he finished runner-up in 19 majors. So you combine that's 37 major, he had finished first or second.
Monster.
That's pretty outstanding feat there.
No, I appreciate that fact, Chuck, because, you think about winners, right? And how hard is it to win on tour? So difficult. I think, he's not chasing the majors anymore, right? This is about the Masters. This has the most significance of any event. This has the most significance to him of any event. And so to be able to do that in the same kind of fashion as the guy who he's idolized, and more importantly, who Jack Nicklaus obviously still with us, but like who the career ghosts he's been chasing, right? This is it. This is the thing, because he didn't have any other competition for a while. Phil gave him a good run for a couple of years, but even Phil's more celebrity than he is golfer at this point, because he puts on these celebrity golf matches. Like, Phil rivals him in celebrity, but not in this. Not in the thing that makes Tiger Woods Tiger Woods. But I'm curious to see how things play out right now. Lucas, how often are we going to do the sponsored Masters scoreboard updates?
The Seymour Putters Masters update at the top of every hour.
Okay, very good. So we'll keep you updated with the leaderboard throughout the course of today's show. Of course, you can keep it locked right here on 104.5 The Zone. You can watch the golf on your TV. You can have Blaine and Mickey and 3HL commentating on the rounds in the background.
I will say Dustin Johnson has quietly moved up to tied for second at 4 under through 4 today.
Man, Dustin Johnson, you want to talk about stories of career redemption and stuff like that. You had rooting interest in golf. This is what I want to get into with Brett Kern, because Brett's a huge golf fan outside of being a scratch golfer. Punters, I don't know if all punters are scratch golfers, but specialists tend to be pretty proficient on a golf course. And I want to talk to Brett not just about the storylines outside of Tiger that he's following as a fan of the sport, but also about preparing for weather, because nobody's going to have a better understanding than that of what a professional golfer goes through to prepare for, things like wind conditions than an NFL punter. So that'll be fun at 11 o'clock. Paxton is in Nashville up next. What's up, Paxton?
What's up, Buck? Let me tell you, man, first off, before I get to the point, I just want to say that I truly believe that we're living in the best time for sports in its history, man. Let's just across the board, man. I really think we're going to look back on these times and say, you know what, this is the golden age of sports. With
now,
that being said,
because what beyond Tiger? I guess flesh that out a little bit, Paxton.
Well, you're seeing, phenomenal athletes, generational talent. We can go back to the MJ versus LeBron debate all day long. But at the end of the day, LeBron is a generational talent that we're not going to see for a while. And this is in our generation. I believe Derrick Henry is another generational talent. I may be a homer when I say that, but it's the truth. You're not used to seeing someone that large, run that fast, and can do as much as he can do. So I just really believe that this is truly a great age for just sports in general. With that being said, I don't watch a lick of golf. I couldn't tell you a 9-iron from a scraper, and that's not even a golf club, I know. But I'm just saying, that's my knowledge of golf is Top Golf. From a scraper, there you go.
I love it.
But Top Golf is my extent to it when it comes to golf. But the Tiger effect has me watching golf.
Yeah.
It had me watching golf yesterday. I don't believe that Tiger has to win to actually win this thing. I believe he's already won. And I'll leave you with that to think about, man. If he goes out today and he's not able to get back into it after today, then guess what? He still won it, man. He's always been a phenomenal athlete, Buck. So I'll hang up and listen, man. I just want to put my 2 cents in, man. Thanks, brother.
Felt it creeping. Felt the music just right. The hot breath of the Oscars music.
That was about 90 seconds.
What are you doing?
I play favorites with Paxton.
What are you doing? What?
Yeah, Paxton's a favorite. Paxton's like a VIP.
What does that even mean? Sure, and you make the rules on this.
Yeah, it's so great because I can just decide when to do it.
I have zero control on that. It does not play into the comedic effect if you let them go almost double over the set time. There has to be structure.
No, Paxton gets leeway.
There has to be rules. Unacceptable. Lucas Panzica accusing Tiger of cheating because he thinks he's a cyborg.
I didn't say he was cheating. Nobody said he was. Everything is clearly up to code. I'm just saying we can't.
No, you
rule
did
it
not.
out.
In fact, that's the exact opposite of what you started the show with. That everything may not be up to code. Keep an eye, head on a swivel, kids. That's basically what your analysis of Tiger Woods was today. Unreal. to say that he's already won, and about the point of the greatest generational time in sports, I don't know how to do that, right? Because I haven't lived in different generations of sports. I think though what may lend itself to that is that we all get to see it. Sports and society and culture, it's never been more accessible. It's never been more connected. Social media for all the ills. The internet is the best and worst thing to ever happen to humanity. It gives us access to all of these things. So you're not reading about, I don't even know what would be a historically significant event. I mean, Joe Namath winning the Super Bowl. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Or like Seabiscuit winning the Triple Crown. Like, you're not reading that in the newspaper across the country like 3 days after it's happened, right? You get to see it. You get to see the moments happen on social media. You get to see them on television. You get to see them on streaming, and they're forever documented on YouTube. So you feel like you have so much more access to this stuff, even though, there's probably been similar, generations of incredibly talented athletes competing across sports at the same time. If this is the best it's been to you, maybe that's so. But I don't know if we can ever definitively say, yeah, this is the best without having been there, other than what we have to document those kind of things. I don't know. I do know that people are going to tune out if Tiger doesn't make it. If Tiger falters today, the Masters is going to lose a lot of steam. I don't know that it should, though, because, Again, it's early, and the winds are, you can already tell. Brooks Koepka just got his shot onto the green there. But the wind, the flags, the flag at the hole is going crazy right now. I think the winds are expected to be somewhere at 25 miles an hour later this afternoon.
Oof.
That's not, you can hit a great shot and it still end up 4 or 5 feet out of place once it's in the air. This is where things get complicated.
That would put my ball on the nearest highway.
I saw one of those graphics yesterday on Instagram where it's giving like a letter assignment to each place on, I can't remember what hole it was at Augusta, but basically say, hey, what using the letter, where would your ball land? A, B, C, D, E. All within the shot. And I said F.
Yeah.
Just the F out of the shot. Nowhere close.
20. That's my answer. Give you a number.
Oh, goodness. All right. When we come back, we got to talk about some other record-setting paces, some other historical precedent being set with the Nashville Predators. A big win in Ottawa last night. Records broken. The Preds have done a lot of that as of late. So when we come back, we'll do a Panzika Preds Minute, and we'll tell you all about how historic this particular hockey team has been. And now, with the playoffs getting closer and closer. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back on this Friday. What the hell happened? The sky just opened up. Raining hard here in Middle Tennessee. Hope you guys are staying safe if you're out there on the roads. Hoped we were going to have a little bit of a break in the deluge that has completely taken over Middle Tennessee. But, at least we'll get to the weekend a little closer. Get some nice weather, be able to get out and about. 615-737-1045 is the number. That's how you jump in on our conversation. Today, Nashville Predators getting a big win on the road last night. Playoff contention. They're hanging on for dear life in that wild card spot. They are playing as well at a star power level as any of their stars have ever played. They're doing it at the same time at the top level. The depth is something that I think a lot of us have questions about as we get closer and closer to the postseason. But 3-2 over the Ottawa Senators last night. Let's do a Panzica Preds minute.
Well, they just keep breaking records. There's a long list here that Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports helped me out with. But I'm going to start from the top. Record that was broken last night, Roman Josi. Single-season points record with 68 as he continues a career year, a Norris Trophy contender. This season, the Preds have broken a record for career assists. Josi is up to 387 currently. He broke that record weeks ago. Career goals in franchise history, Philip Forsberg is now up to 216. I believe his 211th goal is what broke David Legwand's mark. Single-season goals, obviously, Duchesne and Forsberg are basically neck and neck right now to figure out who's going to hold that record by the end of the season. And I already said single-season points with Roman Josi. Tanner Jeannot already broke the hits record. He's got 247 in a single season. Jeannot is also 2 goals away from breaking Philip Forsberg rookie goal record of 26. Not to mention, the Preds are quite literally fighting their way into the playoffs. They lead the league in fighting majors with 51. The next team in the NHL, the Anaheim Ducks, with 35.
So they're kicking people's asses in more ways than one.
Quite literally.
And they've got a couple of tough games coming up. They've got a day off tonight. Florida at home this weekend in Nashville, and then at Pittsburgh on Sunday as they continue to try and keep hold of their postseason position. I don't know how much more you can say about how they're playing. We had David Poyle on the radio show yesterday, and, jokingly was like, all right, David, just where are we now? Where are we now with the Forsberg thing? How rewarding he must feel it to be to see the Matt Duchesne contract finally paying dividends the way that they thought that it could. It's a really, really strong team right now. But they now have just over 97% chance to make the postseason.
They should make the postseason.
So, it's just playoffs it's playoffs, and then we figure out how things go from there, how things match up. I love the idea that we're almost assured to have playoff hockey here in Nashville. Andrew is asking, what do they have to do to solidify a playoff spot, Lucas? Do we have the answer to that question? On the Zone TV chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can interact with the show, as well as the phone lines.
Yeah, mathematically, I don't have an answer as far as how many games they need to win to clinch, but I can tell you they are in that first wild card spot on 86 points, 2 points clear of Dallas, and 4 points back of St. Louis, who sits third in the Central Division of the Western Conference. So they're kind of firmly in that spot. Like I said yesterday, you don't have another matchup against the Dallas Stars to win that head-to-head and take away 2 potential points for Dallas and take it for yourself to create more separation. But it's a reasonably favorable schedule down the stretch here. 12 games remaining in the regular season. Really, they just have to not completely, mess it up, to not fall flat on their face. And by the way, for some context with what we're talking about on their production this year offensively, last season, do you know how many goals the Preds lead scorers? There were 2 joint lead scorers last season for the Nashville Predators. How many goals did they have by the end of the 2020-21 season?
Oh, damn. That's a tough question.
It was Calle Yarncrow and Mikhail Granlund. I'll tell you that right now. How many goals did they have by the end of the season?
Let's say...
in an injury-plagued year for Philip Forsberg.
Let's say 25.
The answer is 13. The answer's 13 for a team that made the playoffs, largely due to the depth, the herd line, right? Lifted the Preds out of a funk midseason to rally and get to the playoffs. Yes, obviously great play from UC Saros down the stretch last season as well, but that was the constant talking point last season. Not only the power play, but not getting the production from Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, and Matt Duchene. So here you are with Philip Forsberg leading the way with 38 goals. Matt Duchene with 37 goals. They've both broken the single-season record. Tanner Jeannot on 24, about to break the rookie goals record for a single season. Ryan Johansson with 21 goals. That's a career high for him. Roman Josi, a career high for him with 19. Thought he hit 20 last night with a slap shot, but the goal actually got given to Tanner Jeannot, who redirected it. Josi got the assist. So you've got 7 guys that have already scored more than the Preds' lead scorers last season.
13 goals.
Yeah, I mean that
is obscene.
That's how little production they got from their top line last year.
I knew the power play was bad. I mean, it feels like a constant talking point, or at least since I've been down here over the course of 5 or 6 years. Power play is always a question. It was a question under Peter Laviolette. It was a couple of years, it felt like, or a couple of seasons now under John Hines, where you kept looking for the answers there. You kept trying to understand why your stars were underwhelming coming off of that Stanley Cup core team. And looking at this, I mean, I don't know, Lucas, what the more impressive record is that they're breaking. Single season scoring, single season points, all-time goals, career assists. I mean, it has to be the scoring.
For me, single season scoring, for sure. Because of the fact that it took this franchise so long for one player, Victor Arvidsson, I think in 2018, to get to 34 goals for that mark. And now here you are in 2022 with 2 players having surpassed that mark in March and looking to both break the 40-goal mark for the first time in franchise history with 12 games left.
Lucas, we've got a punter in the rain out at the side door. You want to go grab Brett Kern really quick, and I'll continue the conversation about the Nashville Predators.
You can handle it? You're good?
I think I can handle it. But, yeah, I mean, when you kind of boil it down to all of these things, the postseason matters. What you do in the postseason matters. These are the things that are going to define how this season went, whether it impressed you, whether it was not enough, as it hasn't been enough in their division to really break through, because the division is just so damn good. But single season scoring, single season points, all-time goals, career assists, it has to be, to me, the all-time goals by Philip Forsberg. That's the place where that really feels like this guy is going. I mean, he's just made his mark on this franchise forever. And whether or not they succeed in the postseason, I'm not going to say it's ancillary. In fact, it's not at all. It's the first and foremost thing that they have to accomplish. This is what David Poile is trying to do at the end of his career. This is going to be the defining moment for Philip Forsberg to be able to prove that he's worth a contract worth $10 million a year. And I'm sure our buddy Brett Kern will have some thoughts on this as well. Big Preds fan. No, Brett, we're not going to have you sit by all the food. Relax. 615-737-1045 is the number. Yeah, I'm sure Brett wants four-hour-old breakfast food from the morning show. It didn't stop us. But, this is a professional athlete that has to keep himself in line. But, yeah, Philip Forsberg, this is going to be what defines whether he's worth this money. This is the contract that we've all been talking about this season for the Preds, now that we're through the whole trade deadline thing. And it's just, I wish we could go a week without one of the professional franchises having a dumb trade rumor around it. But, what are you going to do? When we come back, we're going to talk Masters with Titans punter Brett Kern. He's hanging out in studio with us. Coach Mack is going to be here in the middle of this as well. It's going to get a lot of fun. So we'll have fun on a Friday. I'm Buck Reising. That's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 10:58. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. Now a Seymour Putters Masters update. Sungjae Im atop the leaderboard, 5 under through 8 holes. Dustin Johnson has worked his way up to tied for second at 4 under. Tiger Woods finished day one at 1 under, and he tees off today at 12:41 p.m. The Tennessee Titans were implicated in the Brian Flores lawsuit against the NFL on Thursday as former Titans defensive coordinator Ray Horton joined the lawsuit and alleged the franchise conducted a sham interview with him in 2016 to comply with the Rooney Rule, despite having already decided on Mike Mularkey. The Titans ultimately did elevate Mularkey from his interim role to head coach in that cycle, and the team released a statement on Thursday saying, quote, "We conducted detailed in-person interviews with 4 talented individuals, 2 of whom were diverse candidates. No decision was made. No decision was communicated prior to the completion of all interviews." The Nashville Predators scored 2 in the third, including a game winner from Ryan Johansson to grab a 3-2 win over the Senators on the road on Thursday. Matt Duchene, Tanner Jeannot, the other goal scorers. Roman Josi with 3 assists, breaking the franchise record for points in a season with 68. The Preds still in that first wild card spot in the Western Conference, 2 points clear of Dallas. They are back in Bridgestone Arena tomorrow at 5 p.m. hosting the Florida Panthers. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 is off and rolling on this Friday. Welcome in. Welcome back if you've been hanging with us on 104.5 The Zone so far this morning. We're happy to have you in. Lucas is back there making it happen. We've got Titans royalty in the room. We got the MV punter, the best in the business. We've got Brett Kern as our Masters analyst today. Buddy, I am so happy to see you. Lucas, make sure his microphone is on. Now talk to me, Brett.
What a pleasure. Off to a good start.
Listen, this is the highest of
It's
quality.
It's like the weather outside. I mean, it's sleeting.
Well, I think that was a shot at you.
It's a show tradition at this point to have the guest not have his mic on with his first words.
This is like the first couple months that we were starting out, and I'd call for audio, and there would just be silence. Just silence. We had no idea what was going on. We're not professionals, Brett. We just sit here and do this for 3 hours a day.
No, I remember listening to when you all started, and you had some growing pains, but it's turned out to be pretty good and an enjoyable show to listen to.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm coachable, but we're still finding that out.
That's all we're shooting for is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good.
We'll take pretty good. You are as big a golf nut as anybody I know. And so I'm happy to have you in to do the Masters analysis. We did it last year on the phone. This year we get to have you in the studio while the golf is on the television. How excited do you get at this time of year? Because this is the thing, whether you're a golf fan or not.
Yeah, this is it. Especially, I think with Tiger coming back adds a whole new element to it. And then I think most importantly to get the fans back, to see the crowds swarming around. If a guy hits an errant shot and just people just swarm to it.
Yeah.
You hear the roar of the crowds. I've been 4 times, and you hear those roars on TV, and you know what it sounds like, if you've been there. And so I think to get that back just creates an atmosphere that is special. And it's been pretty fun to watch.
Where were you when you found out that Tiger was going to play? Because this is like a moment where we're all like, we ran it on television. We had it live in the studio with us. When he said, if I feel pretty good after this practice round today, I'm going to play. Just like stop everything, hit the alarms. He's going to be out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was it last week? I believe when they sent out that tweet of his jet, going up to Augusta.
Right.
And I remember thinking, it's like, man, I don't know how that guy's going to be able to walk that golf course on really a busted up leg that was probably should have been gone from the knee down, honestly.
He said they don't look like one another anymore.
Well, yeah, you could tell when he walks. It just looks rough. But yeah, I mean, to walk that course, TV definitely doesn't do it justice of how hilly that course is. You can be in great shape, and you get a couple of those sandwiches in the belly, maybe a beer or two, and those hills become really hard to walk. So I can only imagine what it feels like for him coming off what he did and having to walk that golf course 4 days in a row, if he's obviously making the cut and staying in contention, that's a brutal walk.
Titans punter Brett Kern is here with us in studio talking golf. I'm sure we'll do a little Titans at some point today. Hell, we may even talk about the Preds. You were just talking about the odds on Roman Josi to win the Norris Trophy, and outraged by the idea that Cale is it Macher? I always say it incorrectly. Lucas is not there to help me. Thank you very much for that. Just silence.
You're on your own.
Useless. But looking at where things, because I want to get into the golf storylines outside of Tiger. He's obviously going to hover over this thing all day long. But we were just talking about the Preds last night. How invested are you in this Preds season right now? Because they're going to make the playoffs. 97% chance they're going to make the playoffs.
I'm pretty invested. I think when there's a game on TV, it's on at my house whether I'm watching it or not. My daughter, our middle one, she loves to to watch the games, and so it's kind of a good time to sit down, watch some hockey, and I'm invested. I mean, I grew up playing hockey in Buffalo, and was a Sabres fan growing up, and so I just love watching hockey, and then obviously going to a hockey game in person. There's nothing like it. So
you got the little girl with the television on watching the hockey game and yelling "You suck" at whoever just scored whoever just allowed a goal. Is that what's happening in the current?
No. There's not that. I mean, it's. I find it interesting though.
Lock it down.
When that game's on national, when it's on ESPN Plus or kind of the hockey game of the night, the national media has a way of kind of somehow editing that out, or you can't really hear it, but when it's on Bally.
Oh, you suck?
Yeah.
They edit it out on ESPN?
They don't edit it out. I just found myself not hearing it very much, but then when it's on Bally, you can clearly hear it.
No, in the same way that you just took a shot at Lucas about our production quality around here, this is something that ESPN's going to have to figure out in year 2. You got to have that. It's the ambiance.
That's absolutely. I'm wondering if they're going to start it, maybe they start that chant for Nashville SC when they open up the new park.
Are you going for the opener?
I mean, I'm going to try if I can get tickets.
You didn't get tickets? You can get tickets. All right, listen. This is the only good thing about there's many good things about having a radio show. One is you can yell about something, complain about it, and somebody will reach out to you after the fact. 2 is great dinner reservations. Brett Kern needs to be at the home opener of Geodis Park on May the 1st against the Philadelphia Union. He's too modest, he's too humble to make these kind of requests. I'm imploring Nashville SC to make the easiest PR layup that ever there was and have Brett Kern in attendance for your home opener. This is something that needs to happen. See, aren't you glad you came in today?
Yeah, absolutely.
615-737-1045. Okay, so outside of Tiger, what had you fired up about the Masters before we all found out that he was going to be in this thing or that he was going through the practice rounds and everything else? What storylines were you set out following throughout the course of this tournament?
I think the last time a first timer won it was 79, right? With Fuzzy, and I think there's enough young talent out there to maybe change that narrative. I think somebody that has never won it before. I mean, you look at Harold Varner. He's playing well. Wish I would have picked him, but I didn't. Second guessing myself on that one. But honestly, like when I'm making Masters picks, playing there, I was listening to Jordan Spieth the other day when he had his media conference.
Yeah,
and he was talking about how they changed the yardage books this year because you can't read the greens on your book, and so they all got new books. And Spieth was talking about how him and Michael Greller, his caddy, they in their old yardage books they have the fault lines of all the greens. So if you hit it here, it's going to go left. You hit it here, it's going to come back. All that stuff, right? And they base it on maybe a single pole in the media tower or this certain tree. And there's so much that goes into it. And so, when I'm making picks, I'm thinking, who are the guys that have played well there? And then who are the guys that have the experience?
Yeah.
Right. So like Dustin Johnson, right? He played well in Austin, a couple of weeks ago in the match play, but he rarely plays on the fall circuit and doesn't really play a lot leading up to the Masters. So a lot of people don't really talk about him. But then if you look at his record at Augusta, he's obviously already won, but numerous top 10s, top 25s. And so somebody like that doesn't surprise me, that he's on top. But one guy, Zalatoris, young, played it once last year, finished, got himself a top 5 out of it. So I'm really curious to see excellent ball striker, not the best putting, but it seems like some of the best putters in the world here have a hard time on these greens. And if you're hitting it close enough to the pin, which I think is going to be quite a task today with this win.
Look at that flag going,
that flag
man.
is that's moving,
and that's not even as strong as it's supposed to be today. It's supposed to pick up considerably right before Tiger tees off.
Probably right when Tiger's on one tee box. He'll probably get a nice 30, 40 mile an hour gust. But but somebody like that's an excellent ball striker. Corey Connors, great ball striker. Can they hit it close enough to kind of overcome some of their putting issues that they've had on tour?
Yeah, Tiger's going to tee off at 12:40 Central Time today. So of course we'll have the tail end of that. We'll be keeping track of for you, Blaine and Mickey, and 3HL after that. We'll be able to keep up with it throughout the course of the afternoon as well. I've always wanted to go to Augusta National. I told Lucas this story earlier this week, just for the experience, because it's one of those singular things in sports. There's no place like it in the world. It has such a presence around it that comes through. I mean, even just the commercials hit you harder when they start up on ESPN and you hear the music, you see the azaleas. But I was telling Lucas the story earlier this week. My girlfriend's boss went down to Augusta. I think he was there yesterday. I don't know if he got to stick around for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But he was asking her if I wanted any Masters swag. She's like, hey, I'm going down to the Masters. Going to get some stuff.
Can get out of control.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Everybody knows this. Everybody listening to this radio station just heard the sound that Brett Kern made into the microphone when I brought up the Master Swag, right? Yeah. We all feel this. And she looks at him and she goes, I don't think he really likes golf. I don't think he needs anything. I was sick. I made her call her boss, her employer on the spot and be like, no, I need hats. I need polos. I need all of it. I don't want to ask you for a number on
the average. I mean, you can bring a $20 bill and that will cover you for food for the day.
You're kidding.
The average. I mean, it's $2.50 for a Masters Club sandwich.
Well, yeah, once you get in, they're like, we'll cut it easy on you on the
Georgia peach. The Georgia peach ice cream sandwich is also another. Oh, that was really good.
What are you shaking your head back there for? Like you didn't just eat half of 8th and Roast out of house and home today.
I want a pimento cheese sandwich from the Masters so bad.
Pimento
I dream about it.
The barbecue, the Masters Club. Masters Club, that's my favorite. But so I mean, you feel really good about your food purchases because you're only spending $20-$25, and then you get into the pro shop, and I think they said the average purchase is close to $1,000 a person.
Yeah,
because this is the problem. You go there and you're thinking, well, I mean, this could be it. This could be the last time. I don't know when I'm going to get Masters tickets.
Sure.
Right? And so you go all out. You spend $1,000. You're like, well, that was a lot of money, but I think it's worth it. I don't know if I'll ever be again. And then all of a sudden, a year later, you're going to the Masters again, and then, well, I don't know. Am I going to be ever going to get tickets to the Masters again?
Starts to rack up
and it just, and it just starts racking up. I mean, I had a Masters umbrella that I got in I think it was 2014. I went down there, got the umbrella, and it just broke. And I'm like, I got to get down there and get another umbrella.
So you just got to keep buying sandwiches, right? You got to make your money back somehow. Just buy all the sandwiches.
Yeah, I mean, you can get as many sandwiches as you want. It's unbelievable.
Who's done the most? When you take these trips down there, I know you've probably been with a couple of different people, but I'm sure there's some consistent faces. Who's done the most damage as far as sandwiches are concerned? Because I want to say that Ben Jones has got to be up there.
Yeah, we went down there in 2018 together, and I think we split off a little bit. I think he went with Suck Up. I think I went with somebody else, and we just kind of split up. Said, hey, we're going to meet back at this spot at a certain time. I think it was 7 Green or something like that. And Ben, you got to plan for it. You got to, if you're going down on a Thursday, you probably have to fast on Wednesday, and then you probably got to fast on Friday afterwards. It's something you prepare for. You get ready mentally to go out there, and you spend $30 and you feel stuffed.
Lucas, when's the last time you've had a fast? You done a fast here recently?
No.
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
Yeah, I know, Caleb Farley. We rebuke that in the name of Jesus. No fast in the sports radio industry. It's one of my favorite drops. I've had 2 conversations with Caleb Farley in my life. That sound, give it to me again,
yeah,
Lucas.
I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
It's one of my favorite press conference moments. It's the only thing that's mattered from the Zoom era. That and Vrabel just scorching all of our souls when we have a bad internet connection. Brett Kern, Titans punter, is hanging out in the studio. Maybe we'll talk about some of that. We're keeping track of the Masters. Brett is our tournament analyst for the day. Your phone calls are welcome. 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Reising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome
Buck
back
Reising.
on this Friday on 104.5 The Zone. Buck Reising, Brett Kern, Titans punter, hanging out in studio. That music, that's Friday music. That means Return of the Mac is on the horizon. The man in black, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio, will be here momentarily. But in the meantime, Kern, we got punter calls, punting calls.
Got to be the first time you've had this on your show.
Well, with you here with actual technical calls, yes, I have gotten questions and calls and comments about punter, strategy before. We were talking about the fake punt that you ran against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple of years ago. I got many questions about that. Many questions. I'm sure you had some questions.
Try to forget that moment.
I'm surprised you remember it.
Yeah, I had I'm glad I have a good chiropractor because I visited her often that week. Yeah, that did not feel good.
For people who don't understand how fast a Devin White-esque linebacker moves on a football field, how would you describe that? When did you see him coming towards you?
When he hit me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he hit me hard, and yeah, can we talk about something else?
PTSD.
Yeah. I'm already starting to get sore in my neck.
All right, Andy in Columbia. Let's bail Brett Kern out. What do you got, Andy?
Yes, love the show.
Thank you.
Forever fan, Brett Kern. You're an awesome Titan, hopefully forever Titan. And I had an interesting theory. What if the NFL, because, everybody likes points nowadays, and the Titans have had some kicking problems in their recent past.
Not this year.
What if they made a rule that you as a punter, if you could punt it over 50 yards through the uprights, your team could get 3 points?
Oh, you must be a big CFL guy. You're trying to get some CFL rules implemented in the NFL, trying to punt a ball through the uprights, get 2 points.
I mean, listen, Vrabel's trying to change the overtime rules to stress everybody the hell out of what he submitted to the NFL a couple of weeks ago at the owners' meetings. Are you trying to play CFL rules football out there?
Actually, I used to do that in college, just trying to kind of fooling around. I didn't know, I was thinking maybe I wasn't sure if the NFL was going to work out. And my agent's from Canada; he lives in Toronto, so I figured, hey, maybe the CFL might be an opportunity. And so I remember my senior year working on punting it through the uprights because that's a rule.
That's a rule
up there.
We can do CFL analysis at some point with Titans punter Brett Kern as well. So keeping an eye on the Masters at this point. Through the first round, and now we're very, very early on into day two. Who's kind of made an impression on you so far watching this at this point? That's kind of maybe surprised you or caught you off guard that they were making such headway in the second round today. Yeah,
I mean, I definitely didn't pick Sung J M on my fantasy team, but I mean, he's always been a consistent ball striker. Pretty good at putting. He plays in a ton of tournaments, and he's always done well. Cameron Smith, I have him on a bunch of teams. I mean, he won the Players last time somebody did that was Tiger to win the Players and the Masters in the same year. So he's got the game to do it. He's probably one of the best putters in the world, one of the best ball strikers. So it wouldn't surprise me if he could pull that off. And then Scotty Scheffler, number one player in the world, 3 out of the last 5 tournaments, he's raised the trophy. And I find it interesting that he made the caddy switch to Bubba Watson's old caddy,
right.
Ted Scott. And so he's played in the Masters twice. I think he top 20 both of them. But to see him with Ted Scott now, who's Bubba won 2 Masters with Ted Scott on the bag. And so to have that knowledge, of your caddy and obviously bringing a presence, with Scotty to be able to win 3 out of the last 5 tournaments he's played in, especially in Austin, that match play tournament is grueling.
Yeah.
You start Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you're going 36, and that's a lot. So he's playing well. He's one of those guys too. He tees off in the afternoon when that wind's going to be roaring, and he's got probably one of the highest ball flights on tour. So that'll be interesting to see, which is great. Normally, I mean, they got to keep the green soft, I would think, because it's going to be so windy. If you firm those things up, it's going to be virtually impossible to keep it on the green. So I think they're going to keep the green soft, which will help Scotty out just with his ball flight, hitting it so high.
There's going to be some frustrations when this weather hits.
Yeah, and it's going to be good as a normal fan, when you're playing golf, to see some of these guys just struggle out there. It kind of makes you feel better about your own golf game. So,
you know what? Let's brighten. Let's get this thing going here because I'm told that Coach Dave McGinnis is on the line. Mac, you play any golf?
I used to play golf way too much. Until I ruptured my hamstring. I was at that one house I had in Arizona for about 16 years. I had another garage built for all my clubs.
Coach Dave McGinnis, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Like an extra set of pads since 1947, protecting Tennesseans. Farm Bureau Health Plans is the spot for you. Mac, Brett Kern is in the studio with me.
Coach Mac.
He's our golf analyst today. He just made a face, just a horrified face when you said that you ruptured your hamstring. I've heard that story. I don't know if that's too gruesome to tell on air.
Yeah, it's not an on-air story, but Brett was there. One of my all-time favorite dudes. Look, how lucky have I been as a coach and now as a broadcaster? The two punters that I was involved with when I was coaching and now broadcasting at the Titans, Craig Hendrick, Brett Kern. How about that? Two of the best ever. And I say that, if they were not good, I'd tell you that too.
Look at you. You're blushing, Brett.
I'm blushing. I tell you what, if Coach Mac isn't in your top 5 favorite people in this world, we got to have a conversation.
Listen, I don't think anybody would dispute that. Mac, we're grateful for your presence as always. Let's talk a little ball if you don't mind.
Sure, let's go.
We've been on this draft class so far throughout the course of the pre-draft process. We're getting closer here in about 3 weeks to this going down in Las Vegas. The position that comes up a lot when we talk Titans is the tight end. Now, Hooper is under contract, and they've brought back Jeff Swaim. What have you made of this tight end class, given the fact that there's obviously no fire-breathing dragon Kyle Pitts in the first round this year, but a bunch of dudes with a lot of unique skill sets that can fit a variety of different offenses?
Yeah, I like this. I like this group. After having spent quite a while on this, I like this group. There is not, and you're correct, there's not a premier guy this year that's going to come in and be the immediate dude. But there are some guys that are going to make a living for quite a while once they get into this league. I'll go through some names here with you, unless you want to throw out some names, and I've got my notebook here full of stuff.
Well, let me give you a name, Mac. Let's narrow this in a little bit. Jelani Woods is a player who converted from quarterback to tight end while he was at OK State. He goes now to Virginia, or went to Virginia as a grad transfer, got a lot more volume, learning the position in real time. This dude is a monster. He's 6'7", damn near 260. Mac, what do you see the nuances of the position when you watch him? Do you see him still learning that in real time, and how does that translate on film?
Well, great. That's a great one to start off with, Buck. I like that. You've done your homework.
We just fist pumped in the studio, Mac. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
No. It's a great job. I like that. I like talking to people that know what they're talking about. As you said, he was in Oklahoma. He was a grad transfer. This guy, with that 6'7" frame, he's long. So it takes him a little bit of time to get unwound. So you're not going to have a real nuanced route runner, but you've got a guy that can separate on that second level, and he is a combat catcher. And he's a big rebounder is what he is. It takes him some time to get everything unwound in his routes downfield, but he's got athletic traits and size. When somebody is that tall, and that big, you've got to be able to work around that sometimes with your route running and with the type of route that you're going to run. But with his height and the way that he has build-up speed, and plus his catch radius, if you're going to get him working across the field, you're going to have a really, really favorable target for your quarterback. I really like this guy. He needs a lot of work because here's what happened to him. It was at Oklahoma State. Did not get a whole lot of work there. They've got a really good running game, and plus they had some receivers that they were spinning it to quite a lot. He showed out a little bit there at Virginia, but this guy to me is one of the more interesting prospects in this draft because, first of all, you're not ever going to have anybody really come up that people are going to say, where did he come from?
Right.
But the scouts that I have talked to, and then myself watching this guy, this is a great, to me, end of day 2, beginning of day 3 guy that might pay dividends for you if you can get him.
Titans have at least one pick on day 2 as we sit here today. Certainly this tight end class is going to be pretty interesting. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is here with us. Brett Kern is in the studio as well. Brett, did you ever try playing a different position? How did you decide on punter?
Yeah, I was in high school, switched from soccer to football real quick. First week I was out there, they wanted me at wide receiver. I was down for it, give it a whirl. Ran a little slant across the middle in a zone, and my really good friend, was linebacker, he waxed me good, knocked the wind out of me, and I just said, this is not the position for me. I don't like getting hit. I will be over on the other field kicking footballs, and if you want me to play football, that's where I'll be. That was that.
Hey, Brett, nice choice.
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, look, high school, you need a kicker and punter, and it's like, hey, who wants to do it? And nobody wants to raise their hand. That's not the cool thing to do. That's not the cool position to play in high school. So somebody had to raise their hand.
And after you raised your hand, this is year how many?
15.
15. It worked out, Mac.
No, I know how it worked out exactly. I was with Alan Lowry and the Titans when the Broncos released him in October, and Alan Lowry immediately came to Jeff Fisher and said, we need to go get this guy. And as I said, one of the 2 best I've ever been around. He and Craig Hendrick, and then I'll throw Johnny Hecker from the Rams in that group. But as far as kickers that have all the tools in their bag, you talk about a golfer having all the clubs in his bag and can hit them all. Brett Kern is that. I mean, he's a all-pro punter. Enough said.
That's all.
Thanks,
that,
Coach.
All that need to be said. Look at him; he's glowing. Brett Kern here in studio with us today. Mac, when you look at the other tight ends, there's another one that comes to mind. Jeremy Ruckert at Ohio State, not necessarily getting that kind of volume. They've never really, even under Urban Meyer, that didn't feel like they incorporated the tight ends into their offense a whole lot, given that they've always had such great skill position talent there. When you talk to people, or at least when I've talked to people around the league about him, Mac, it feels like it feels like he might project as a better player in the pros than he was in college just because he'll have opportunity. How do you see this player and his fit at the next level?
Well, I like that analysis because it's spot on. He's got a little bit of a lower leg injury that he had, since the season, but let me read Ruckert here from my film work here. 6'5", 250. Now this guy is the complete opposite of Jelani Woods, the guy that we just talked about. This guy's got inline blocking experience. He's got physical toughness as a blocker. His space movements, he's not as fluid in his space movements, as some of the guys that are smaller than he is. But he has played inline. He's been a move tight end. I like his hands. He's got a physical mindset. And to me, I think that is a really, really good projection for him because he was not used a lot and the offense wasn't, right now in the National Football League, you're 11 and you're 12 personnel, which is, 3 wides and 1 tight or 2 tights and 1 wide, and one guy being able to be your stud tight end on the line, in line, and one guy in a 12 personnel being your move guy. This guy, to me, I thoroughly agree with the last part of that summary assessment that he's got a much more favorable professional career ahead of him than he had, and he played well there at Ohio State. I just think he'll be utilized a little bit more once he gets into his professional career. I like the guy.
Mac, is blocking an absolute necessity for a tight end in this offense? That sounds like a basic question, but I feel like the audience needs to hear the analysis from you.
Yeah, I should have let you finish your question. It is if he's going to be your inline player, okay? If you're going to play 12 personnel and you're going to have one guy be a move guy, then he doesn't necessarily have to be a great inline blocker, but he has to be able to get his hat and sustain on the move, if you're going to move him. And most of your move tight ends sometimes have to be able to insert as fullbacks, if you're going to incorporate that into your run game. But sooner or later on the edge, whether you're going to move him into position or whether you're going to be in line, if you're in line, you're going to have to take on some of the bigger defensive linemen at times. And against the 3-4 defenses, some of the bigger outside linebackers. But anybody that's running an outside zone scheme, who's ever on the edge, has got to be able to make that money block to be able to stretch the gaps inside so that you will have a chance for your running back when you're running that outside zone cutback to be able to have some options. So my answer is yes, but there can be two different types of blockers at a quotation marks around the position tight end. If it's thicker, he needs to have a little more base. He needs to have a little more lead in his ass to knock off somebody that's probably going to be in the defensive end mode that's going to be a bigger person. A move guy can get away with a little less weight, but he's still got to be able to get his hat between the defender and the ball carrier on some of the plays.
Brett, as a punter, do you feel that you need to have lead in your ass?
I tell you what, if I was punting in this wind that these guys are playing in today, yeah, for 100%.
Oh, Brett,
this is another reason why I chose to be a punter, because sometimes when Coach Mack, I mean, his analyzing everything is amazing, right? But sometimes it's
Brett,
like,
I can't do it. I have to call Mac. Make me smarter so I don't sound like an idiot on here.
I've been playing football for a long time, but it can sound like a foreign language, and I just prefer punt left, punt right. It's much simpler.
There's nuances at every position. Isn't that right, Mac?
Let me stop you right there for our listeners. That's not true, because you know as well as I do, I've watched you in a lot of practices, and the ability to be able to drop into diamond wedge those punts the way that you do, and the things that people don't understand, the intricacies of the punt game and what goes into it in the National Football League, as far as where your gunners are, where you're punting to, your directional punting, all of those things, how they figure into a game plan. So you might be able to tell the uninitiated that it's just punt left, punt right, but Coach Mack's here to say that's not true.
He just sniffed out your BS. He just called you
on
it,
it,
Brett.
You're right.
We're going to get into the nuances of that with Brett a little bit later when we talk about the weather and the impact on the Masters, because nobody has more experience in that way than Brett Kern. Mac, we got a caller with a question for you. You down to take a call?
Let's go. Let's take a call, and we're getting ready to take this OTP on the road. I can't wait to get out amongst the people. I love that. Let's go.
That's right. We're not juggling enough things around here. We got Brett Kern, we got Coach Mack, now we got Danny in Murfreesboro who has a question. Go ahead, Danny.
Hey, what's up, Coach Mack? There are two cornerbacks that I've been watching a little bit of tape on, and I wanted your opinion on. One, I think, is a second-round guy out of Mississippi State, Martin Emerson. I really like him a lot. Curious about your thoughts there. And the other guy, I just forgot the school name that he came from, but Zayon McCollum. He's like 6'5".
Yeah, he's from Southwest Texas State.
Giant.
Yeah, he's from Southwest Texas State. And Zayon McCollum. Look, both of these players, in my humble opinion, both of these players are top 100 players in this draft. And they're both a little bit different. McCollum is a really exceptional athlete when you really start looking at his numbers and the things that he's done. Played at a smaller school, but the numbers and he's twitched up. You know what I'm saying when I say twitched up? In other words, his transition, his change of direction, those types of things that are really, they have to have that innate skill. You can improve on their techniques, but if they have that innate physical skill in them, then there's a lot that you can do with that. Emerson is a little bit of a smoother player, but what I like about Emerson is he's a very, very aware corner. Some corners are when you watch tape and you start digging in on them, you really wonder sometimes how aware they are of what's going on around them, because when you get isolated out there on the corner, sometimes it's very easy just to get in that world and not be very aware of what's going on. Emerson's a very aware corner, so I like both of those guys, and you bring up two guys that I think that you will hear their names called at least on the second day of the draft.
That's Coach Dave McGinnis. Listen to me, all right? The OTP, the official Titans podcast, is going to be on the road April 9th through the 14th. Tomorrow, Coach Mack, Mike Keith, Amy Wells, they are at the Columbia Welcome Center. You can RSVP. It is extremely limited, so you better get in now. TennesseeTitans.com. You can find the link to RSVP to the official Titans podcast on the road. They're going to have multiple opportunities to hang out with people. Sunday, they're back here in Nashville at Martin's Barbecue Joint downtown. That's the one off 4th Street, right, Mac?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right. Go hang out with the OTP crew. Mac, a pleasure as always. Have a fantastic weekend, buddy.
All right, guys. Enjoy the Masters. Brett Kern, always great talking to you, too. See you, brother.
Love you, Coach. See ya.
That's Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio there with us on 104.5 The Zone. I thought we did that well.
What a gem of a guy.
Just the best.
The best.
We get him every Friday. All right, we've got Lucas and Brett apparently have a Q&A session. You want to tell people what you're trying to do with Brett Kern? Before I sell you out, by the way, don't think I've forgotten about the Brett Kern thing that we talked about earlier.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's coming up next.
And I would like to grill Brett Kern about where he played his college football, because somebody very close to me will be spending the next 5 years of their life in that place, and they're very concerned.
I'm sure that'll be fantastic radio in Nashville, Tennessee. Also, weather in punting and in golf. That's next.
that's what's going on at Augusta. Going on at Augusta. That's what's going on at Augusta.
This, of course, is the musical stylings of Chris Vernon. Is there a radio station, or is this just on Bally Sports? Like, do they live stream this all day?
I think so. It might be carried on the air.
Watching Neiman 300.
Like, he scripts it out. Like, I'm going to send you, Brett, I meant to text you this during the middle of the commercial break, but this man, he's doing a live radio show. He's got the Grizzlies mascot behind him and, like, things that look like the different, like, golf club covers that you put on your driver and stuff like that, and he's just rapping. He's just putting it out there. It's the Masters Update. They do it every year.
I'll have to play this for the kids when I pick them up from school.
It's clean. You can do it because he's doing it on FCC.
It's fantastic.
You got this. It's a better visual bit than it is an audio bit. But, it makes us feel like golf is here.
The kids will love it if they like golf.
So,
I'm sure.
Masters Update, because Titans punter Brett Kern is here, first and foremost, to be our golf analyst. Louis Oosthuizen has just pulled out of the grouping that Tiger Woods is getting ready to tee off of in just a little less than an hour from now. You brought up in the commercial break why that's going to complicate things for a group of three that has now become two.
Yeah, I mean, Tiger and Joaquin, with Louis being out with his back, kind of poses something, when Paul Casey withdrew yesterday, he was one of the last foursomes to go off. And so he went from a threesome to a twosome. But with these guys in the afternoon, they're kind of smushed between other threesomes. And so how does that become an issue with your rhythm? Are you waiting on 13, with your second shot on the par 5, 15? Are you waiting a little bit more on par 3s? Does that kind of throw you out of your rhythm? And it's already hard enough to play with Tiger Woods. I mean, you saw the masses yesterday. Joaquin did a great job, firing a 3-under.
He held his own. That's a tough spot.
Even with Tiger, you saw him a couple of times yesterday stretching his back. Is he going to have to do that a little bit more often today just because, you go from a threesome to a twosome, and that kind of throws off the timing of things.
Well, and that's the biggest question today, right? That's the thing that we're all wondering. We knew that he could do it in day one. How does the body respond? Where you could clearly see him moving with a certain kind of just difficulty for obvious reasons, because one leg is literally not the other, and the man was in a car crash just a little over a year ago.
I mean, I can only imagine the warm-up process that it is for him to get ready to play for a round of golf.
Yeah.
It has to be a 2-hour process.
I mean, easily.
Yeah, I would think, at least.
And this is something
that's before you hit balls.
Right. And this is something that he's been through with his back. I mean, we've seen Tiger play.
Broke his leg in 2008 or whatever it was.
I mean, he's finished tournaments on a torn ACL before. Like, this is somebody with an unnatural pain tolerance, but this is going to be an incredible test for a 46-year-old man who's walking this course. And as Brett said, if you haven't been there to understand how hilly it is, that's a bigger task than you might necessarily understand. Weather is going to play a big part into this afternoon, right about the time that Tiger tees off, as a matter of fact. We're talking about significant wind and rain at Augusta today. What is this going to do? Well, basically, how must weather factor in to preparation for a golfer? And given you're somebody who went, in a previous time of covering football, I used to walk into the locker room. This has been basically almost 3 years ago since I've been in the locker room. Walk in and Brett's got like weather charts laid out like he's getting ready to do the 6 o'clock news or something. How much does weather factor into your preparation on a week-by-week basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's important. You have to understand, where you're playing, the type of stadium you're playing in, wind direction, all that kind of stuff. The temperature just kind of affects how the ball travels. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I'll say, I played at Jacksonville, I think 12 times now. Yeah. So, the first year or two I went there, you're trying to figure it out. Jacksonville, the wind can swirl a little bit. It's always usually windy.
Just a light drizzle. These are my words, not Brett Kern's. It's the worst place. Jacksonville's the worst.
Like I said, it's not the best. But, so, I mean, but as each year goes on, the more you play in a certain stadium, the more you get the idea of what's going to happen. And so now it gets to the point where, you got enough game film of playing there. You get the weather forecast and it might say, hey, 10 miles an hour from the northwest. Playing in that stadium enough times, I know exactly what that stadium's going to be like. And then I can go back and watch film of, hey, was I punting right that whole game? Was I punting it left? And then you can kind of prepare throughout the week knowing kind of what situations you're going to be in, especially with the weather. So with these guys, we were talking, about Spieth earlier. The guys, Tiger's played there 23 times, right? Made 22 cuts. I mean, he understands, hey, this is going to be a West win today. I know exactly what I need to do on certain shots. I know exactly where to miss them. The reason why he did so well yesterday, it wasn't like he was hitting a ton of greens or anything like that, but he was keeping it below the hole.
Yeah.
He knew where to miss. And if you talk to any guy that's played that course a ton, the biggest thing they talk about is where to miss it, right? And so Tiger did a great job of that yesterday. And so today, you throw in these wins, and thankfully the greens are soft, like I said earlier. It's going to be really tough, and I can only imagine what it's like for some of these guys that are playing it for the first, second time and seeing these wins. Man, it's going to be pretty tough.
So if you're looking for Tiger to show you one thing today, is it just how he physically responds, or is there something beyond that you want to see from him?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yesterday, especially on the back nine, he had a couple of those drives that got a little leaky. They went a little left, almost just dead pulls to the left. And you could tell that's usually, the upper body, lower body, is getting out of sync a little bit. And he's, like I said, that course is it's a beast to walk. And so I can only imagine how he felt, especially getting in towards the end, that back nine. And so I'd just be curious to see if he has any of that today. His ball striking was unbelievable. That shot he had on 6, that par 3, that little cut 6 iron. I mean, that thing looked like it was going to go in the hole. It's not a matter of ball striking. I think it's just a matter of physically, can his body keep up with his golf swing.
Titans punter Brett Kern hanging out in studio with us today. All right, moment of truth, Lucas. You ready? You just rolled your eyes in the back of your head. You want to tell Brett Kern what you tried to do to him earlier in the week?
I don't know what you're talking about. I am innocent in all of this.
What's going on?
Brett is a Titan. Brett is a punter on the side of the stadium.
I knew you were going to do this.
On the stadium banners.
I knew you were going to try to do this.
I can't remember the exact circumstances this was under. This wasn't a salary cap conversation.
No, here's what it was.
No. I offered you the opportunity to defend yourself.
Oh, no,
you turned it over to me.
The conversation was. You can't remember what the conversation was, so you're going to try to turn it into something it wasn't. Is what's going to happen.
Tell Brett how you tried to replace it.
So no. We were talking about the Titans taking flyers on quarterbacks in the 7th round in recent years, and Cole McDonald and Luke Falk in 6th or 7th round, and how NFL teams will do that at the quarterback position. And I made the very generalized remark of why take a quarterback that most likely is not going to shake out or maybe not even make the practice squad, or you could just draft, say, a punter or a kicker.
Slow down, you're talking very fast.
Buck Reising took that as draft a punter, replace Brett Kern. That was most certainly not what I was saying. But
that's exactly what he did.
If it does inspire you to go on a profanity-laced tirade, Delaney Walker style, about draft a bleeping punter, then I'm good with it, but please don't cuss.
Yeah, I don't know. I refrain from cussing in a lot of situations. So, no, it's some teams do it. I mean,
you can't handle this diplomatically. He tried to replace you. They can't have that. I will riot.
That in the name of Jesus.
Indeed, Caleb Farley.
I would never.
Brett, I appreciate you. Well, actually, I mean,
it's only fair. I mean, I did take a dig at the production to start the show out. Lucas and I just shook hands, not even like an hour ago. So,
and since then, he's trying to get some 7th round Toledo, another Toledo player to come in here and take your job. I mean, was there ever a question to you this season that you were coming back? Because, I mean, everybody has these salary cap things that they go through every year. Specialists are not something that people put on the top of the list when they're doing the armchair GMing. But, I mean, did you ever feel like you weren't coming back this year?
No, I mean, I was under contract, and, I was fully planning on, playing year 15 here. So I knew that, obviously had some contract stuff going on that my agent and John did a great job of figuring out. But, I was fully planning on playing here. I've had competition every year. That's just part of the business. So, I'm glad that they got stuff worked out. I'm glad to be here for, I don't even know what it is, 14 or whatever it is here.
It's a long time, bud. It's only you and Lawan left that have seen losing seasons, by the way.
Rough. Yeah, we still talk about that in the hot tub sometime. We kind of do that remember when, those kind of stories, and we are very thankful that things have turned around and things have gotten a lot better.
Okay, Luke, we're running short on time here. Lucas is yelling at me that his girlfriend is watching on Zone TV. She's watching the stream because apparently your girlfriend is moving to Toledo, Ohio.
She's going to spend the next 5 years of her life as an orthopedic surgeon resident in Toledo, Ohio at the University of Toledo. Brett Kern, you are a former Toledo Rocket. So yes. I have 3 quick hit questions for you.
Why'd you say his full name?
About Toledo. Just shut up. Let me do this. She wants to know, A, is it the worst place you've ever lived?
Well, I've lived in Buffalo, Toledo, Denver, and now Nashville.
That's a yes.
Is that a
That's
yes?
a yes.
Is it a yes or a no?
It's well, I'll say there's some parts of Toledo that are really nice. There's some parts of Buffalo that are really nice, and there's some parts of both that are not.
And what's your favorite part about living in Toledo, Ohio?
Well, I mean, that's where I met my wife, so a little different circumstances than what y'all are in. But yeah, I mean, I met my wife there, so of course it's a great city.
And can you swim in Lake Erie in the summer?
Okay, so I did that in high school a couple of times. Used to go fishing. Went swimming in July. I think it was my senior year, going into my senior year, and a little bit too much of intake of water. And 3 days later, I had a stomach bug. So if you're desperate, I mean, if you're desperate to go swimming, yeah, I guess have at it. But it comes with a warning.
Don't drink the water.
You could be like me and just go through almost 29 years of life without learning how to swim. You don't have these problems.
Oh, that's not many. There's not really many bodies of water in Indiana, are there?
No, just corn.
And pools.
All right,
There's
relax.
no excuse.
Titans punter Brett Kern has been kind enough to spend an hour of his day here with us. Buddy, it's always good to see you.
It's a pleasure.
I love that we do this now on a regular basis. It's unfortunate that now that you've done it 2 years, we're going to have to keep it going. But, I always appreciate your time.
I had a blast. Thanks for having me.
That's Titans punter Brett Kern. When we come back, we're going to get into some draft topics of conversation. We'll update you on the latest with the Tennessee Titans situation in the Brian Flores lawsuit. That's next. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. A Seymour Putters Masters update. Sungjae Im and Cameron Smith tied for the lead at 4 under. Im threw 11 holes today as Smith set to tee off in about half an hour. Also, Louis Oosthuizen had to pull out of the tournament due to a back injury. And Tiger Woods, after going 1 under in the first round, will tee off today at 12:41 p.m. The Tennessee Titans were implicated in the Brian Flores lawsuit against the NFL on Thursday as former Titans defensive coordinator Ray Horton joined the lawsuit and alleged the franchise conducted a sham interview with him in 2016 to comply with the Rooney Rule, despite having already decided on Mike Mularkey. The Titans, of course, ultimately did elevate Mularkey from his interim role to head coach in that cycle. The team released a statement on Thursday saying, quote, "We conducted detailed in-person interviews with 4 talented individuals, 2 of whom are diverse candidates. No decision was made and no decision was communicated prior to the completion of all interviews." In college baseball this weekend, top-ranked Tennessee back in Lindsey Nelson Stadium hosting a series against the Missouri Tigers. The Vols look to remain undefeated in SEC play. Game 1 is tonight at 5:30. And the Vandy Boys on the road at Auburn this weekend. First pitch is tonight at 6 p.m. The Preds are back in action tomorrow at 5 o'clock in Bridgestone Arena hosting the Florida Panthers after another record-breaking night, winning at the Ottawa Senators 3-2 last night, and Roman Josi with 3 assists breaks the franchise record for points in a season with 68. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Man, is that already the final hour? Where did our Friday go? Welcome in, welcome back. If you've been hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone, man, that was a lot. Do we like how that went? Lucas, we feel good about the Brett Kern, half Coach Mac hour, golf, Titans, everything in between?
I enjoyed it, learned a lot.
Even me airing you out to dry? You felt good about that?
I feel good about the way I defended myself.
I just know that the punter's going to hold a grudge. I just know it. He'll remember that. Next time you try to offer him a 4-day-old or 4-hour-old breakfast burrito, he's going to throw it back at your face.
Just being hospitable.
615-737-1045. You can jump in if you like. 615-737-1045. All right, Tiger getting ready to tee off in about 35 minutes, or scheduled to tee off in about 35 minutes. Currently sitting at 1 under with the opportunity to advance in round 2 today. Keep an eye on that for you. In the meantime, we had a lot planned today, a lot that we haven't gotten to, and fortunately, it's been a good show, so we're going to be able to roll some stuff over to next week, some evergreen topics that we had prepared that I think are going to be of interest to you. But let's stick with the newsworthy items right now, because we've made it 2 hours into the show, and we haven't brought up the Ray Horton allegation against the Tennessee Titans and the Mike Mularkey termed legally hearsay that is the foundation for Ray Horton, former Titans defensive coordinator, longtime defensive assistant in the league, now retired. Mike Mularkey going on record saying that the Titans had broken the Rooney Rule in his hiring back in 2016 is something that has caused a great stir, not just here locally, but around the league. Now, I read Joe Rexrode right before the show started on The Athletic this morning. And Rexrode, went at the Titans' necks a little bit for a rule that was broken, allegedly. I think the Deshaun Watson story has taught me a lot about how to navigate these kind of circumstances. Because in listening to this audio yet again, and in fact, Lucas, do we have the Mike Mularkey audio to play from the Steelers Realm podcast where this story got its legs? This was Mike Mularkey in 2020, almost 2 years ago, talking about how the Amy Adams Strunk and her family, the Titans ownership, broke the Rooney Rule.
Your coaching career that you might have done differently or changed?
That's a good question.
I'll tell you guys this. I've always prided myself in doing the right thing in this business, and I can't say that's true about everybody in this business. It's a very cutthroat business, and a lot of guys will tell you that. But I allowed myself at one point when I was in Tennessee to get caught up in something I regret, and I still regret it. But the ownership there, Amy Adams Strunk and her family, came in and told me I was going to be the head coach in 2016 before they went through the Rooney Rule. And so I sat there knowing I was the head coach in 16 as they went through this fake hiring process, knowing a lot of the coaches that they were interviewing, knowing how much they prepared to go through those interviews, knowing that everything they could do, and they had no chance of getting that job. And actually the GM, John Robinson, he was in on the interview with me. He had no idea why he's interviewing me, that I have the job already. And I feel, I regret that's because I pride myself in my kids first, that they do the right thing. And I always said that to the players. And here I am, the head guy, not doing it. And I've regretted that since then. It was the wrong thing to do. I'm sorry I did that. But it was not the way to go about it. Should have interviewed like everybody else and got hired because of the interview, not early on. So that's probably my biggest regret.
So I wish I almost would, and this is not Lucas's fault. I didn't ask him for this, but I almost wish you'd have left the final 5 seconds on there, because to hear the tone deafness in the host's voice about, he said, that's a touching story.
Yeah.
He said, that's a touching story. But, and I understand, 2 years ago, we were not, the George Floyd movement had started. There had been a greater focus than ever before on racial discrimination in this country. A lot of people who were not properly trained or who are not accustomed to talking about things in more sensitive terms than they needed to be talking about them. I want to give some benefit of the doubt, because if Mike Mularkey dropped that in my lap, if I asked him, hey, coach, you got any regrets from a long time in coaching? And then he just hits me with, yeah, Titans broke the Rooney Rule. What? What? All right, we have to hold the podcast until I can write an article and make sure that this gets out there in the public, because this is something that is critical. This is something that is critical because it will get Mike Mularkey subpoenaed. But what he has just said on a podcast, our buddy Dan Lust, the sports law lawyer, we asked Dan yesterday, called him short notice, bless him. He's almost always available to us, and fortunate because we've dealt with a lot of legal situations in sports that we've needed help navigating through this year. I asked Dan yesterday, hey, what impact does this Mularkey audio have? And this was Dan's legal explanation.
So I'm going to give you I guess a legal term. People have heard it, right? Hearsay. Hearsay is an out-of-court statement, right? That's not done, not sworn under oath or anything like that. Certainly there are exceptions to hearsay that can come in. But, for all intents and purposes, this is going to be pretty relevant, right? People were spending so much time talking about the Bill Belichick text message, which is another form of hearsay, right? That's an out-of-court statement. It's not done under oath. But at the end of the day, right, Mike Mularkey is going to get called, I would think, either as some form of a deposition. He might be subpoenaed in. He might be asked to, answer questions under oath. And, he could try to walk back his comments. I listened to it a couple times. Mularkey, the same thing I told you with Bill Belichick, right? I don't know if Bill Belichick actually knew that Daboll was going to be hired by the Giants. Mularkey might, when asked again, he might say something, hey, I thought I was going to get the job. They were leaning towards me. Nothing was official. Nothing was signed. That's how it seemed like the Titans will get around it, I would think, right? Mike Mularkey, he didn't sign any papers. He wasn't officially the head coach. And maybe that was his perception of the event. So it's not, none of these things can definitively prove, the allegations here. It's certainly very helpful to the case, but people kind of need to take a step back. That's why you hire, high-powered lawyers on the other side to say, hey, Mularkey, that was his perception of the events. He ended up getting the job, but that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. So people might be quick here to put some dirt on the grave of the Titans, right, with respect to this lawsuit. But it's just step one, right? That's why you hire lawyers to kind of fight back on the other side here. So yeah, let's see how the Titans respond. The Giants, I think, gave an effective statement when they got these Bill Belichick text messages. I imagine the Titans will say something like that. Mularkey, that's his perception of events back in 2020. Speaking of events that happened 4 years prior. But certainly the Titans are going to have their own view of it.
And let me give you the Titans' view of it, because apparently my text didn't go through until after we were off the air yesterday requesting a statement, but the Titans did end up putting out a statement later yesterday afternoon. Quote, our 2016 head coach search was a thoughtful and competitive process fully in keeping with NFL guidelines and our own organizational values. We conducted detailed in-person interviews with 4 talented individuals, 2 of whom were diverse candidates. I add parenthetically, that would be Ray Horton and Terrell Austin, who was a Lions defensive coordinator, I believe at the time, was a Steelers defensive back coach, longtime coach in the league, somebody who was discussed as the Titans defensive coordinator in a post-Dean Pease world. That worked out okay here, though. No decision was made and no decision was communicated prior to the completion of all the interviews. Again, I add parenthetically, Mike Mularkey is saying, hearsaying, if you want to be specific, somebody told him that he got the job before they made it official. While that may be so, and while the question is, one of the biggest questions is, who told you that, Mike? Who said that to you? Because there's a lot of different parties involved in this, and, you know, who I'm sure would like the air cleared. If you're going to name names, then let's name names, right? So, who told Mike Mularkey this, and does any of it matter if there's not a paper trail? If nothing was put in writing to say Mike Mularkey is officially the Titans head coach as of when was John Robinson hired?
2016, January 16th. I'm sorry, January 14th. Mularkey officially introduced in January 16th.
So if there was paperwork done, signed, sealed, delivered on January the 12th that said Mike Mularkey is the head coach, but they didn't put out the press release till the 16th, these are the details that are going to come to light through the court process. Whether it actually happened or not is a different question. Whether it can be legally proved is entirely another. 615-737-1045.
Poll question. If this does indeed go to a court of law, how long until an attorney says, Your Honor, Mike Mularkey's words are a bunch of malarkey?
That's what you wanted my attention to say on the air?
That's been stewing in my head for a few minutes.
It's so bad. It's so bad. I'm proud of you. You know what? You stuck with your gut. Gut feeling told you to say that. I'm glad that we had the payoff for you. I want to ask you, though, 615-737-1045. Does that Mike Mularkey audio make you feel any differently about the Titans? Because in the same way that, and let me not say in the same way, because in the way that the Browns trade for Deshaun Watson has caused some Browns fans to have questions about their fandom to a much less severe extent. I saw a lot of that coming from Titans fans on social media yesterday. I want to know if you're one of those people. 615-737-1045. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
That's a little Wild Feathers on the radio, kids. We're going to the Mercy Lounge tomorrow night. I'm fired up. We are going to have a great time. It's one of Mercy Lounge's last shows. Our buddies at the Wild Feathers who were in studio with us, what was that, on Wednesday? We've had a hell of a week.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. I mean, I think we kill it every week. I'm biased, but I think objectively, we have really kicked ass as a show this week. And, only because we've gotten tremendous guests to give us their time for free. So thank you very much to the Wild Feathers and to Brett Kern and to David Poyle and to Coach Mack and all the other fun guests that we've had throughout the course of this week. But yeah, Saturday night, if you don't got plans, we're doing the Wild Feathers at Mercy Lounge. Last call, one of the last call shows at Mercy Lounge before they shut it. Do we have any idea what's going? Has it been bought? Is it being turned into a hotel? Is it being turned into an Airbnb before I have to start talking about the Titans lawsuit and the Brian Flores racial stuff again?
Maybe a tall and skinny?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, they're putting the tall and skinnies up everywhere. It's fair to wonder. But yeah, we're doing that. We'd love to see you out there with us. And if you're got plans after that, we're all going to Nobles, F1 at midnight, hosted by our buddy Vincent Love, who's a loyal Zone listener for a long, long time. He's put together an incredible F1 fellowship program for those of you who want to watch it's the Australian Grand Prix this weekend, Lucas. Yes? Australian Grand Prix? Oh, he's giving me a finger, not that finger, the other finger, telling me to hold on because he's answering phone calls. Anyway, F1 at Nobles after dark, after we do the Wild Feather show. It's going to be a long day for you boys Saturday. I don't know if I got the stamina, but we'll find out together. The question that we asked you before we took a pause there was, has the Mike Mularkey audio of him saying that Amy Adams Strunk and the Tennessee Titans knowingly broke the Rooney Rule, has that changed your view of the Titans organization? This is hearsay, legally qualified as hearsay from Mike Mularkey. There will be legal proceedings that bear out where there is guilt and where there is not guilt. But in the same way that I think we all have visceral reactions to things, you want to be conscientious of the legal process. You want to be conscientious of the difference between allegations and facts through all this. But it does seem like there's been at least a little bit of a conversation around Titans fans. Some of you don't like the way that your team is being portrayed for one reason or another, whether you agree with the Rooney Rule or not. I happen to not agree with the Rooney Rule just because the Rooney Rule doesn't work. Doesn't mean I don't agree with the principle. It's just the rule itself has clear and obvious flaws. But a lot of you think highly. A lot of people get morality or look to sports teams, people in sports for morality. And that's never something that I've understood, because these things are businesses, and businesses make cold decisions, and businesses, from time to time do things that may not necessarily be above board. But there was a tenor of disappointment in the organization yesterday that I found interesting, and I wonder if anybody in the audience felt that as well. 615-737-1045. Barry is in Nashville up first. Hello, Barry.
Hey, Buck, how's it going?
It's going well, thank you.
Good. Just a question, and I know I've heard about the disparity of African-American coaches and the farceness of this interview, but the other candidate was a white guy, I assume, but isn't that just as unfair for him to be not considered for the job as well? If it was a farce for the other two candidates, shouldn't it be a farce for him as well? And, I just don't understand that part of it, because I'm an African-American guy myself, but I just don't understand why they want to play that. Well, I don't want to say they're playing that card, but it just seems to be unfair for all candidates if they already had predetermined who was going to be the coach. That's all I got. Thank you.
No, thank you for the call, Barry. It's good perspective, right? Doug Marrone was also interviewed for the Titans job. It is fair to assume that if Mike Mularkey's allegations are true, that Mike Mularkey was not just given the job over Terrell Austin and Ray Horton, but was given the job over Doug Marrone, who is obviously, or for those of us who pay attention to football on a regular basis and know Doug Marrone as the Jags head coach and the Bills head coach and the offensive line coach, I think most recently for Alabama, that Doug Marrone is not African-American. He's not a minority. This is where these things start to. These are all fair questions, right? And the difficulty is the NFL clearly has a problem, but nobody has been able to figure out a tenable solution. And in fact, I think quite literally, the numbers are worse than they were a decade ago as far as minority candidates in both GM and head coaching roles across the league, right? So it is fair to say that the Rooney Rule has failed, even if it was well-intended. There are plenty of things that I've done in my life, as I'm sure you have as well, that you are well-intended, but you either don't have a fundamental understanding of what you're trying to be well-intended about, can lead to some blind spots, and ultimately put you in a situation that is less tenable than the one that you were trying to avoid in however you were going about the situation that you may after the fact find regrettable. That's how I kind of summarize the Rooney Rule. A lot of this is so difficult to kind of suss through. And my I mean, just to kind of let you guys in on how I try to balance this thing, I cannot give you any kind of concept of what it is to be a coach who has been through a false interview in the NFL. I have precious little experience as a minority, certainly not as an African American in the United States of America, who have historically been up against it in more ways than one, held down in more ways than one, to the benefit of other people in more ways than one. These are not opinions. These are not a matter of opinion. This is fact. This is the history, right? So from this standpoint, Lucas and I are trying to do our best with this, understanding that we ourselves may have blind spots with this. I can't speak from the perspective of an African-American head coach or a coaching candidate who's been through a fake interview in the NFL. I can't do that. I can't give that to you. But the best that we can do is give you the information that supports the dialogue around this. And then if you want to make your own assertions as the legal process plays out, that's entirely upon you. All we can do is have the conversation, and I think that's the most important thing that we're trying to do. 615-737-1045. Chris is in Nashville up next. Hello, Chris.
Evening, gentlemen. I'll be really quick about this. I don't want to get to a big spill, but I believe Mr. Roman Foster this morning said it best. The only way that this whole thing is going to get fixed is unless we all open a giant dialogue. Putting yourselves in slightly uncomfortable positions, talking about stuff that you don't typically talk about. I believe the Rooney Rule is an absolute, I ain't going to say joke, because I am, like you, Buck, I totally stand for the basics of the whole ideal behind it. But I do believe that it sets a lot of teams and people up for failure. I believe that the applicant or the interviewee maybe just look at himself, oh, my gosh, I'm sitting this interview just because I am black. So, unless you change systematic, generational, racial tension, it's never going to change, and that starts with dialogue. So, good evening, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thanks for the call. And here's the thing about this story. Where was this in 2020? Because this audio has been around for a long time. And, to be completely honest, I had not heard it until 2 years after the fact. I had not heard it until yesterday. Now, I know that Mike Mularkey had done an interview with Ross Tucker almost in a similar time frame, somewhere in the last 2 years, where he had talked about Marcus Mariota, where he had had questions about necessarily the leadership of Marcus Mariota. That stuff made the rounds, but I never heard a word of this. Never heard a word of this.
Well, people were occupied with other things in 2020 as well.
Yeah, I'm not seeking out the Steelers Realm podcast. Although I had the time, I spent a hell of a lot more. I would have much preferred to spend my time on this than the amount of time I spent on Tiger King. I still regret that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Deeply regrettable. Because Buckethead tweets us, if a fan is changing their fandom over this, they must have missed this content cycle in 2020 when this first made the rounds. Again, I don't remember it, and maybe this is just a failing on my. But I've seen this sentiment expressed. I understand that we're not perfect as a Titans media corps. But I feel that had this been brought to our attention, or had this made it onto the majority of our laps or come across our timelines in some form or fashion 2 years ago, that there would have been a much larger discussion had around this, no?
I do think it's important to note, Joe Rexrode points out on The Athletic a problem with Horton's claim that the Titans, Rexrode says, interviewed Terrell Austin before they interviewed Horton. And at the time, the Rooney Rule required you to interview one minority candidate, and that they changed it to 2 in 2020. So I wonder how much that might negatively impact his case if the Titans had already satisfied the Rooney Rule before talking to Horton.
These are all things that are going to play out over the coming months. And, in the legal system, I don't know if the proper time frame is months or years. I don't know how long this is going to linger. But as far as implications for the Titans, there doesn't seem to be a paper trail around this stuff. That would prove Mike Mularkey's hearsay as fact. Now, whether it happened or not this way is an entirely different situation. The burden of proof, though, is what matters here. And one would imagine if the Titans did break this rule knowingly and have the kind of basically defense that Rexrode has just pointed out, the idea that Austin was interviewed first as opposed to Horton, then some of this stuff is going to get fleshed out. Ray Horton is about to come under a ton of scrutiny, as is Steve Wilks. And it's going to be unpleasant for them. It's going to be unpleasant for the organization. It's going to be unpleasant for some segments of the fans who feel that they're some segment of the fan population that may have strong feelings about this, one way or the other, rightly or wrongly. The point remains that the Tennessee Titans are now in the middle of this in ways that they were not, 25 hours ago? Let's go to Scott in Nashville up next. Hello, Scott.
Yeah, hey, so I think a big context to this point, or this whole conversation, is that, he was the interim coach. Mularkey was named the interim coach the season before, the last 9 games in 2015. And Horton was his superior at that point. I think he was the defensive coordinator, and Mularkey was tight ends coach.
That's
or something
correct.
like that.
That's accurate.
And so, he was given a job mid-season. Did the Rooney Rule apply for them naming him the interim coach? So the Rooney Rule sucks. It doesn't work.
Scott, we just had an example of this, right? And it's not being questioned. What Bruce Arians just did.
After the date.
Scott there? Scott drop? Okay. 615-737-1045. But Scott, again, flawed. But the point stands. Again, fair is one thing. Following the rules is another. If a rule was broken, there will be punishments. Whether you believe that is justified or not is entirely without, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. It doesn't matter how they feel about it. It doesn't matter how Mike Mularkey feels about it. If they are found to have broken the rule, then they will be punished for having broken the rule. There will be consequences. And by the way, how the league goes about punishing this thing across there's 5 franchises that are by name implicated. If you're suing 5 franchises, you're suing the NFL. Titans, Cardinals, Giants, Broncos, Dolphins. All of those teams have been implicated in this by name. Amy Adams Strunk is now implicated in this by name. Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, is now implicated in this by name. And by the way, the details on that, how they were offering Tom Brady player ownership in the Dolphins, is a story that came up yesterday that we haven't even had time for today, that plays into some of this Rooney Rule stuff. But to bring up the example of Bruce Arians, no, it was heralded. And I'm not trying to do the, hey, why is this happening for the black guy and not the white guy? I think that is a wretched way to have this conversation. I think that lacks so much context, and certainly, even as I have blind spots about this thing, I'm not gonna be the guy who says, "Hey, I have black friends. Let's call them and tell them or ask them how they feel about this stuff." That doesn't advance this. That's the problem. When you have one set rule for 32 franchises, but the enforcement of the rule is different, or you don't account for interim coaches, succession plans. Everybody's been through the coaching cycle, almost 2 months ago, and Bruce Arians, last week? It was like, I'm going to go to the front office. when they had to have known the entire time. Hell, it had to have been a big part of why Tom Brady came back, given the reported tensions between him and Bruce Arians. And Bruce Arians, and by the way, I agree with all this. Bruce Arians is being the change that the Rooney Rule is supposed to be. What Bruce did, I thought was so admirable. And yet, the definition of the Rooney Rule is not being applied to certain circumstances. And for those who would point that out, you would be absolutely correct. Even if what Bruce Arians did is the kind of change that we're talking about advancing. That's the problem with this. That's why you get mired in all of these, loopholes and details that change the entire course of the conversation, the entire construct of the rule. This is what happens in a different situation when the NFL tries to insert itself into rulemaking that they have no business doing. Roger Goodell, as Punisher Supreme, right? Ray Rice, Bountygate, Deflategate, all of these things that Roger Goodell was heralded by because he was going to keep the league in line and he was going to overpunish the players and all these things. And then they decide that they want to be on the forefront of domestic violence punishments. Remember that? The NFL caught up in the middle of that when our legal system has just a piss poor record when it comes to domestic violence situations. But no, the league's got this. What are you doing waiting around in this? Get out of there. What benefit is it to you other than to bungle this thing worse than it already is by nature of how it's legislated or not? These are real complicated questions, right? So all of these things have to be taken into consideration. Our lines are loaded. I'll shut up and take some phone calls. 615-737-1045. But I do think that all of those things, I can't give you a direct opinion on this. I almost think it's impossible to have one, other than the current system does not work. Ryan in Columbia is next.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of change a little bit what I was going to say. I'm going to disagree with you just a bit.
Please.
And here's why. This is a bigger issue in society. I hope everyone that's pissed off about this is also mad that these things don't happen in society as well. Contradict myself. I think this is a bit different for the Titans. Malarkey was their coach for 75% of the season. They told the guy, hey, you're a coach. You're going to be our coach. That's where they messed up. That's all they messed up. The Rooney Rule is not a bad rule. It literally is. It's not saying you can't be racist. If you're a racist person, it's not going to change that.
Correct.
The fact is, it's making you put yourself in a situation that you would not otherwise be in. And it's making you interview someone, and in that chance that you may find that person attractive to the point where you're going to hire them, that's the spirit of the rule. It's not a bad rule. It just needs to be expanded. But at the same time, I'm going to challenge you on the league side of things here, because the NFL is in the forefront of this. Is it a perfect system? Absolutely not. But you don't see these kinds of rules being passed at state legislatures, forcing businesses to make these kinds of decisions and interview people who are equally qualified. So the league is not perfect, but they're doing something that society's not. So if you're mad about this at the league level, be mad about it in societal level as well, and make sure that we're doing this across the league. Last point, Mike Malarkey's a jerk, man. Like, your integrity is gone with me when you come out and make this something that it's not. And he knows it's something that it's not when he said that in 2020. That's just low ball kind of way. And also to the Ray Horton was the coordinator and Malarkey being tight end. Malarkey had also been a head coach in the league before, too.
Several times.
That was
two different
also
stops.
Consideration. Yeah. Yeah, with 1 year here, 1 year there. So there you go. But that's my point. I just disagree with you on the NFL thing, though, man. They're leading the league. They're leading over society in that realm.
I understand your point, but I would say to you, Ryan, are they leading or are they reacting? Because, I mean, the NFL has come a significant way in the last 2 years on that front. Remember? We've come a long, long way from the Colin Kaepernick situation where they ran him out. We've come a long way because the players, not the league, and maybe the players are the league, but through the course of that 2020 George Floyd situation, after the murder, and people are coming out, athletes are coming out, people with massive platforms taking a strong stance on this, and in particular professional athletes, because turns out a lot of them look like George Floyd or know somebody who looks like George Floyd or has a George Floyd in their family. And Patrick Mahomes, Honey Badger, at the time Deshaun Watson, before all of the controversy that he was embroiled in, notable black faces put together a video, not without the league knowing, say, hey, we demand accountability. And Roger Goodell got on a video from that armchair in his living room that I still think is a fake TV set because there's no way Raj has that modest of a living room, respectfully. And he apologized. Apologized. That's not something that was happening until very recently. Last call for phone calls coming up next. The lines are loaded. We'll do some polls. It's been a fun show. A lot done today. We'll get into it next. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Oh, goodness. Final segment. Lucas, my head is spinning. I'm tired, man. This was a crazy show today. We had a lot going on. Now, we're not quite done yet. We got last call for phone calls. We got poll questions to do. But we do feel that it is always our obligation, our pleasure, to say thank you for the opportunity that you guys give us each and every week to do this stupid little radio show that we get to do. It's a lot of fun. We hope you get the same amount of fun out of it. Lucas Burke says, I'm not tired yet, Buck. No, Lucas, that's the wrong show. Wrong show on Facebook Live. I wish that there were not copyright infringement issues with the Mississippi Mass Choir, because that was one of my favorites. But, you know, even the choir has to get paid. 615-737-1045. We've been talking about this Rooney Rule situation with the Tennessee Titans, allegations and hearsay from Mike Mularkey that have now put Amy Adams-Strunk and the Titans ownership in the spotlight. Chris in Murfreesboro is next.
Yeah, Buck, thanks for taking my call. You know, I think the Rooney Rule's got a lot of flaws in it, and I think Mike Mularkey has some sour grapes. But the key here is we got 32 billionaires or billionaire families that own these teams, and the rule, they didn't get rich by following all the rules. They always look for the loopholes. Now, this is a loophole, what they did, if they did or did not do it.
Yep.
I'm sure all the teams have done it. I mean, and just now we've got one coach, it's just hearsay, and we're all blowing it out of proportion. And I've heard this story many, many years in a row now about we interviewed somebody just for the heck of it, just to follow the Rooney Rule. It's just part of life.
Yeah, but I guess the hope is, Chris, can it not be? Can we not find, you know, I don't like the acceptance in that. I don't like that at all. I don't like the idea that this is just the way that it's always been, so this is the way that it's going to continue to be. I in principle want this kind of change. But the process in how to enact that kind of change has turned out, shockingly to no one, much more complicated than any of us anticipated.
And I feel like the argument of do away with the Rooney Rule, just hire the best candidate, brings you back to square one of making no progress in the undoubted fact that there have been hiring inequalities in the NFL.
Scotty in Castilian Springs is up next. Hello, Scotty.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you.
My thing is we got 57 players out there earning their spot. And if they don't do their job, just like if you don't do yours, your company's going to cut you.
Yeah.
And same with coaches. If they ain't producing, you don't hire them. They hire the best guy. And unfortunately, the Rooney Rule says we got to interview so many certain people. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And that's what we talk about. Y'all talk about it every day. It's a business. And a lot of people get their feelings hurt. You just got to deal with it and move on to the next team.
Thanks for the call, Scotty. That's, like I said, the deal with it analysis, I want to deal with it. I want to deal with it. But I want to deal with it in a way that's going to cause proper change. And, to say that it's as simple as a solution, I don't think that 45 Park Avenue or wherever the NFL headquarters are located in Manhattan are going to be able to come up with the solution as well. It takes much brighter minds than me and apparently old Raj. But, there'll be time for that. Quickly, Lucas, polls.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. The polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. It's the segment where bias takes over and nuance goes to die. Now, here's your favorite Buck Reising Show correspondent, Lucas Pan. Make that poll Zika.
Let's get rid of the nuance. Take it to the club.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford. Custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers, and they will deliver it straight to you when it gets manufactured. Has Tiger already exceeded expectations as we just watched him tee off a few minutes ago? 84% say yes.
Yes is the answer to the question. There can be no disputing it. Tiger being out there has exceeded any expectation that I had.
Are you tuning out if Tiger does not make the cut? 60% are not.
I'll probably stick with it, but just if it wasn't the Masters, I would not. The Masters is different.
What's the most impressive record broken by the Preds this season? 42% say it's single-season scoring, with both Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg has broken. 39% say single-season points, which Yossi broke last night. 17% say career goals. That belongs to Forsberg. Only 2% say Yossi's record of career assists.
Yeah, you're great on a scale because 2 of them have broken the previous single-season scoring record this season. But the all-time goal scorer record by Philip Forsberg, I mean, that's all time. That's the one that I think is going to stick, and certainly one that's going to come up in his contract negotiations.
Did the Mike Mularkey audio make you feel any differently about the Titans? 94% say no.
Well, no, because until we have facts and the legal process, I don't care to make any judgments about this thing one way or the other, to be honest with you.
Who is tight end 1 in the 2022 draft? We'll get into it more Monday, but 58% say it's Trey McBride.
It's fine, Lucas. Interrupt my analysis while I'm trying to wade my way through
How long until an attorney labels Mike Mularkey's comments as malarkey in a court of law? 62% say almost immediately. 9% say never. 29% say shut the hell up.
I did not approve that poll, and I would like for you to shut the hell up. How much percentage of the audience said shut the hell up?
29%.
Shut the hell up. I stand with the 29%.
Not the majority.
All right. It's time for me to shut the hell up. At least until Sunday night. I'll catch you on prime time then. And if not, radio show starts at 10 a.m. on Monday. Have a great weekend, kids. Blaine and Mickey is next.